Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio. Ours is a place where dreams take flight, voices are heard, and stories are shared. This is where cultures meet, connections are formed, and ideas are transformed into action. This is your destination for authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives, and meaningful conversations. We're where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover our world of education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our USA Global TV channel and download our USA Global TV app. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. With heartfelt thanks to our executive producer, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, music scored by Yifei Tang from Cloud Road Music, creative direction by Paul Garcia, and I'm Al Cini, and I'm very proud to be part of the USA Global TV and Radio family. So join us here at USA Global TV and Radio. Make us your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication, or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited. Thank you for being a part of our global community. Let's inspire together. Welcome home to USA Global TV.
Hello, and welcome to USA Global TV and Radio's YouTube channel. We are so glad that you are here today and want to welcome you to A Woman's Prerogative. You might be expecting to see Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck today. She is off, and so I am filling in today. My name is Megan Sandwick. I am a strategic productivity partner, and I want to thank you for joining us again on USA Global's TV, radio, and USA Global TV and Radio's YouTube channel. Sometimes I get that last one jumbled a little, and I am so sorry about that. But I am so excited to be here today on A Woman's Prerogative, where we're going to talk about something that's kind of exciting. We're going to talk about the intersection between mindfulness and productivity. And I am so excited today to be working and to be hosting with Mariska Duperez. And I said your last name wrong, and I apologize. Mariska is going to join us now. She is an amazing coach. She is an amazing human, first and foremost. Let's start there. I want to thank you, Mariska, for joining us today as just an amazing human who has an amazing amount of experiences. I know I've said amazing twice, but that's just because I have always been so impressed by you. Mariska is a coach. She is a transformation leader. She is an author. She is a permanent part of A Woman's Prerogative. Welcome, Mariska. How are you today?
Welcome, and I am so happy and excited to be with you today, because this is the very first time that we have been on a show together. So who knows what magic we will create.
Where do you think we could talk? I mean, I think that the possibilities are endless in our opportunities, and I'm excited about that.
Me too.
So let's just start with a question that I would like to ask, if you're okay. How has your week been? How are you today? And right now, we know you are in Australia, and so we are on technically different days right now.
We are. So I am on a Friday, whereas you are on a Thursday. So my week is ending. You are still twiddling along in yours. We are also in different seasons. So we are going into, well, technically we are in spring and going into summer. At some point, summer will arrive, I'm sure. Whereas you guys are doing the opposite. So you are moving from summer to autumn and then winter.
We are. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. What were you saying?
No, just a wide variety of different things happening in both spaces.
It is. And I will say I'm agreeing with you, because I am in California. I'm in the northern rural part of California, and winter has arrived. It is, as you can tell behind me, like today has been one of those overcast days. It's made me happy. And so I'm not sure about you. Seasons do. And this is something I've learned about myself over the last year, how seasons actually now affect me when it comes to work and things. And so it's, again, something that has been, and I will say it has been interesting for me to see how the season I'm living in impacts my productivity and how I operate in different seasons. Does that impact you at all? I'm curious.
Well, yes. I have a tendency to want to hibernate a little bit during winter. So doing things a bit slower paced in general works for me during wintertime, whereas spring and summer feels fresh and lively, and you want to start new projects and do new things. And of course, this is really tricky, especially if you are working with people that's going into winter and you are going into summer, the other way around. So yes, balancing that is always a very interesting dynamic.
And to me, it is part of to me, that element that you just said is what I love about the remote work and what I love about working with people. And that, this just add Wi-Fi, experience that we've been in the last, as we know that with the pandemic, obviously we went remote, but even before that, it's been exciting over the last years to realize and to take into account things like, yes, I'm excited I'm getting snuggly and you're not. And it's a good thing to learn about, you know what I'm saying, that we get to, I think it just opens our perspective in such a positive way.
I absolutely agree. And it's good to be reminded of the fact that we are continuously going through this transition, right? So wherever it is that we are at that point in time, it's not stationary. It's not going to stay that way forever. It is just a for now. So in this moment in time, this is where I'm at. And in this moment in time, two things can exist at the same time. So we can have summer and winter. Guess what? The planet does it all year round. So wonderful to realize these things, right?
Well, absolutely. And one of the things that, again, because, so it's October, Northern California, all of a sudden the tree leaves, even when it was 100, 90 degrees here, it is September and trees tree in September. You know what I mean? Like fall in September. And so it's been so interesting for me as I'm thinking about getting things done, and I get, my life gets caught up in my whirlwind of, what I'm doing and how I'm doing. And so then when to see something like, it's September, the trees are doing this. And I am connecting this, I'm making this connection when we're talking about the intersection of mindfulness and productivity, because to me, it is interesting to remember that no matter what's going on in life, no matter what our stresses may be, no matter what my personal feelings or emotions may be, things are still going to happen. And so to me, that intersection of mindfulness, to me, having that reminder from nature has honestly been very powerful, because it's like, wait, this is what nature and the world's been doing for, these trees have been here for hundreds of years. If they can do it, maybe I can follow along. What are your thoughts about that? Does that make sense to you?
I love that. I absolutely love that. And yes, it's a reminder of where we are right now, right? In the space that we are occupying, and just looking outside your window, and hopefully you can see a tree outside your window. And if you can't, take yourself to a place where you can see a tree so that you can experience that piece of the seasons change as well. It also reminds me of some people that's living on the equator. So I have clients and people that I work with that's in the Singapore sort of more equatorish space. They typically don't have big seasonal changes. So they do get winter, and that's when they would put off the fan for about 4 days, and that's it. And then they go back into normal summer weather, or the temperature feels like summer. So they don't have the severities necessarily of the season, but we still go through that process. There's still a cycle that we go through. And nature's wonderful at reminding us of it. I have found nature a wonderful mindfulness partner, so to speak, in things that I do and the way that I operate about things. So yes.
It is interesting, and especially, thinking a little bit about the intersection between nature, thinking about the intersection between mindfulness, and then, bringing in how we work with clients. We're both coaches. We both work with people in different categories, but the same, right? I would imagine. And so when you think about it, especially when you're when you're working with your executive clients, how have you, and how has it changed recently? Let's ask one question. How have you started to bring in, again, like you said, noticing the nature, even recommending, go look at a tree? We hear, put your feet on the ground. And I know sometimes people are like, what is that? And it's, so when we think about some of the mindful practices and how we can intersect them with when we're working with our clients, especially executive leadership, what's a good path for us to recommend people to start down? How would you recommend people start to explore that idea?
Well, that is a very interesting question, because we are all in different places, right? In not the physical place of where
Right.
you are, or not only the physical place of where you are, but in our life journey, we are in different places too.
Mhm.
And what makes sense for us, so to answer your question, in the executive space, what made sense for us in our 20s might not make sense for us in our 30s, might not make sense for us in our 50s or 60s or 70s, right? Depending on where we are at in life, what is happening for us at that point in time. And for me, I think the main thing around mindfulness, or the way to be able to practice it, is first just to be present.
Mhm.
So whatever presence practice you have, so whether this is going for an exercise and you can be fully there all the time, then that is your mindfulness practice. And that's fine. Even though you are moving, mindfulness doesn't mean that you need to sit still, right? I sometimes utilize my folding of washing as a mindfulness practice.
Yes.
Brilliant. I mean, I don't know about you, but I find folding washing really boring.
Absolutely. Yes. I had a meditation teacher once that was like, when you're washing dishes is a great time, especially, for busy people and especially parents and things like that who can't find time, which we understand. But it's that same thing where it's folding it into something that you're doing, whether it's you're literally folding or doing something like that, but taking that time. No. And that way you begin to look forward rather than dreading it, right?
Exactly. And it becomes part of a practice for yourself. It's sort of the multiple layers. From an engineering point of view, because that is part of my background, I want to always see whether I can do more than one thing at the same time without multitasking, but having multiple benefits. Right. So if I am folding, washing, and I can do it in a mindful way, so just being present at that moment with that piece of cloth that I have in my hand, or doing the dishes, or even eating,
Mm-hmm.
you can literally do it with anything you want. And that practice itself just makes the thing that we are doing
Mm-hmm.
be more impactful for us. And it also has all the other benefits of calming the nervous system and helping us to be in the here and now, and actually helping us to step back from all the things that we feel has been so overwhelming. And maybe you might even come up with a great idea for that problem that you were trying to solve.
I totally agree with you. And one thing I love about that, and I had a client where we would talk about the importance of, like you said, being intentional, right? And it's the importance of also kind of labeling things. And I talk to people about labeling, and and there are many people that when I label it, they picture the label maker, and I'm like, no, we're not actually making physical labels, although maybe we could. I'm not, but it is that thought of labeling it, like you said, like, hey, when I wash dishes, it's my time to be present and think, or to kind of focus, or to have quiet, or when I'm doing this, which I think that, again, labeling it with that intentionality is so important, so that to say we're doing it is also important.
Yeah.
It really
Yes. It reminds me of a study that they did with people that for a living cleans hotel rooms. And most of them were overweight. So what they did is they gave for half the group no additional information. The other half of the group, they gave information to say that even when you are cleaning the hotel room, because of the weight that you are picking up with the bed and the spreads and the stuff that you are doing, you are actually getting exercise while you are cleaning the room. And after they had that information sheet, They left them again for a while and then came back. And the people that had the information sheet, to your point of labeling it and naming it, actually lost weight.
Interesting.
Because now they actually understood that they were doing exercises while also cleaning the room, not just cleaning a room.
That is so powerful and so important. And I also think that connects to something you said a few minutes ago that I think is important. And it starts at a very basic level of defining what is productivity to every person. But I also think it is identifying, and when we do it, I think it is that we also need to, in our lives, look at what stage we're in and define it for that stage. For example, I recently worked with a retiree on help coming up with a productivity plan. And the retiree, my client, was like, I know it seems silly that I need a productivity partner now. And I was like, no, when you retire is when you need a productivity partner, because of the change that's gonna, and we know that can affect mental health and everything like that. So when you're working with executives, and again, starting to think of the idea of identifying what productivity is, and I'll just give one self note. One thing I always say about productivity, and I'd be curious if you agree, I say productivity is one area we get to be 100% selfish in this life. Like, we need to think of nobody else when we're creating our habits. Like, I had a client who did not like the color red fonts anywhere. And so other people, he's like, but I know I can't do that to other people. And I was like, what do you mean you can't do that to other people? It's your document. You own the document. If you don't want red, don't put red. Easy. Not, and so for me, it's kind of that thought of defining what productivity is and how can we define it personally. From your work with executives and with work you've done, how would you think about that? Or what are your thoughts about that?
I agree with you around definitely customize it for you, right? I know that we have a tendency to go, yeah, this is best practice. And yeah, this works really well for said XYZ person. Right. It is good to get ideas from them, right? And if we do have something that is best practice for whatever reason, because it cannot work any other way, I mean, gravity is gravity and you won't change it no matter what, then great. That is something that needs to happen. Or if it's a physical rule, so for instance, if you have a regulatory type of thing that you need to comply to and it has red font, okay, that's what they want, that's what I'll give them.
Absolutely.
But if it's my own thing, go nuts. It can have whatever you want. It can have lines and all straight rows. It can go all wonky and all over the page. I don't care. It's yours. You do it the way that it makes sense for your brain. Mm-hmm. And that makes a lot more sense for me to do than trying to fit my way of doing into somebody else's thinking. Mm-hmm. So whenever I do have those coach-like conversations with the executives that I work with, we sort of first need to figure out what works for you. And then go, okay, so this is what works for you now. Because this works for you, what would your productivity thing look like? Mm-hmm. Right? And then I might even get ideas from them because I have never thought about doing it that way, which to me is a lot more fun.
Isn't that one of the best parts of being a coach, is the things that you learn and being able to say, actually, no, I learned way more from you than you learned from me. I mean, you know what I mean? That there's, or at least knowing that there's that energy exchange. That's so powerful, I think.
Yes. Mm-hmm. It is a lot more fun. And it also, it keeps both of us curious about the process. Mm-hmm. So productivity not only needs to be defined for us as what is it? What does that mean? Right? Because I'm sure that what productivity means for one person, what productivity means for another person, and you are working with loads of people around productivity specifically, would be quite different. Mm-hmm. Even in their different stages of life, because I don't think the person retiring would think about productivity the same way a 20-year-old would.
And that is so true. In one place that I have seen it a lot, and I'm going to be very specific to women in this case because this is a women's prerogative show, but in productivity, as we mentioned, humans are different. There are differences in how we deal with productivity based on where we are in our life, age-wise, career-wise. And it also has somewhat roles to somewhat affects the roles. For example, my women clients, when we're working on what they're working on in life, they also never, even if it's like someone's hired me through their job, we have all of the other life things that they're starting to bring in. We're, whether it's family and kids and schedules, and whether all, holidays, it's interesting to me. A lot of the women that I've worked with, when we start working on productivity, it's about the entirety of the life, the whole life, if you will. When I work with a lot of men clients, sometimes it's very specific to, oh, hey, I hired you for work, so we're going to talk about work. And I completely understand that, but it's interesting because on one hand, it's like, okay, I want to help with the women with this. I want to help the men with this. How have you found, and what are some of the things that you found in that way?
That is a very apt observation. That we do have a tendency, right? And yes, gender-wise, we have tendencies towards leanings for one thing more than the other. It's not a rule. It is more of an observation of, in our general cultural upbringing, these are the things people have a tendency to focus more on in certain genders than others.
Mm-hmm.
And I have noticed that especially with the guys, and because I work with a lot of engineers, so sometimes the ladies too, do have a tendency to be very specific as to, I want to work on this one thing. And then I also remind them that as we do not take our emotions and put it in a little bottle, put it in the cupboard, go to work, come back, take the emotions out, put it back into us, but physically it's not possible. That is also the same with everything else, right? So whatever it is that we are bringing into that space will most probably have a ripple effect in other areas of our life. So it's always good to, if we think about productivity at work, right? Wonderful. And how might we also utilize what we have now learned about ourselves and about the process in other areas? Mm-hmm. Because guess what? Next time, your holiday planning might go a lot smoother if you use the same technique.
I agree with you so much. And I think, again, we want to be aware of stereotypes, and we don't want to conform to stereotypes. I always like to, whether it's trends or stereotypes, just say, okay, let's be aware of it. Let's watch for it. And like you just said, especially with someone like, okay, we get that you're working on this here. Let's also work on it there. And I think for us coaches, that is the exciting part about having different people is, have you ever thought, okay, I know working with this client's going to be like that. And then you start working with them and they're completely opposite.
Well, I've had a few where I had hypotheses of what might happen within that space. And then I might surprise myself and they might surprise me too, which I always enjoy a surprise. So if you are going to surprise me, please go ahead and surprise me. I'm happy with surprises.
And that's where I always like to say it. One of the things, because I, as a coach, and I know you as well, I think our mindset going into it and not going in with preconceived notions and being aware of like, what is my Pygmalion, and what is my Pygmalion thought? Am I putting thoughts into, and making sure that my mind is not doing that, which we know is super important. But then it is also interesting on the other thing to say, we get to watch humans. And watching humans means that we get to see a lot of fun and learn a lot of traits and learn things that we never thought we would have.
Yes. And it's watching humans, watching ourselves, watching humans. Because as a coach, there's so many different layers in which we can potentially operate. I'm not saying all coaches always do. And I'm not even saying I always do. There's so many different layers. One of the conversations I had not so long ago with someone was around now I need to remember the science that it is. It's big space type of stuff.
Astronomy.
But there's quantum physics. There you go. Quantum physics. So in quantum physics, one of the things that they found is the observer, so the person doing the observation, actually change what is being observed.
Mm-hmm.
And if we take that concept, right, and we apply it to us, ourselves, that literally happens too. Because if I observe somebody, because of the way that I think, the way that my brain works, my observation will be different to the way that you might observe the same person, right? And the experience that they might have in that same interaction, as well as our own inner observation. So how we change starts to influence and impact what we are observing and potentially the outcomes we are creating in the process. So that, to me, that's such a fascinating field. I absolutely love it. So that's what I'm diving into at the moment.
Isn't it amazing, like you said, but just to watch the process and to be aware of it, and then to watch, okay, where do I need to pull back? Like to see how to respond with it. I agree with you. I think that watching that and being aware of it is super exciting and empowering at the end to go back and be like, wow, how that all worked out.
And that also links back to our mindfulness, because we need to be able to be mindful of the process. We need to be able to be present enough to even notice it. Otherwise, it will just slip by. It would be like eating a bag of potato chips in front of the TV. Did you even notice that you ate the whole bag?
That is such a good reminder. And I do agree with you. And I think it's so important that as coaches, as professionals, as women, that we realize and we do think about, how are we taking care of our minds? How are we taking care of our thoughts? How are we protecting, if you will, that our thought process, our mind, that mental playlist, and how we support people? I know for me, that has been probably where I've developed most as a coach. I mean, obviously my coaching skills have developed, but I would say for me as a coach, where I have developed more that's been impactful is my mindfulness and how I've learned about myself, and not in a narcissistic way, but how I can learn about myself to be more supportive and encouraging and as a coach. Has that impacted you? How is your approach and mindfulness, and obviously as an engineer and what you're thinking, you have your thought process is very clear. How do you connect that with mindfulness so that you can help yourself and your coaching?
I think for me, the mindfulness part is, well, one of the things that coaching, as with you, has done for me is not only the skills. It's really, if you think about yourself as an instrument, right? So you are the guitar or you are the violin. Now, the very small little bit of knowledge that I have of violins is, one, they need to be made out of the right type of woods, and different types of wood would produce different types of sound. And then the older they get, it's like a good wine, the sound changes and it becomes more pure. And that's the same for us. We are instruments too. So the more we actually mature within our own space, the better we understand ourselves, the more mindful we are, the more present and right here, right now, we can be in every single moment, the clearer the sound that reflects not only out of us, but from us. So that to me has been really the biggest practice as a coach. And we can use that not only in coaching, even my leaders that I work with. It is so important to understand, because I need to lead myself first. If I lead a team and I show up all frazzled and overwhelmed, how will I get the rest of the team to be okay and to all go in the same direction? I won't, they'll be scared. They won't know what to do. They'll pull in different directions because now all of a sudden we just need to protect ourselves instead of trying to move towards this great vision that hopefully is still there. And that's important as a leader. It's also important as an individual contributor because our impact, we co-regulate with the others around us. So if I'm not regulated, it means that I am impacting those around me and I might cause them to also not be regulated. Whereas if I am regulated, the likelihood of me helping to impact them in the other way so that they can be regulated is improved. So that inner work is so important no matter who you are or where you are in life. That, I think, as humans, that's the work. All the other thing, fluff.
You know what I found so impactful when you were talking about that, and it's a perspective I've not had before. When you were talking about the instrument, normally when I think of the, kind of the I can't think of the word right now, the analogy of living life as an instrument or music, I've always thought of it as being like the person playing the instrument, right? Or, the person playing it. But thinking about it instead of, I am the violin, I make the music, I'm the one, that is for when you were talking about it, to me, that was such a powerful way to change the look at it, that no, I am the one, the thing, the object that makes the music. Like you said with the violin, that it's going to age, we need to make sure to take care of it, are the strings and all of that. But just as you were saying that, I just wanted to point out, to me, that's the first time I thought about it as thinking about the instrument and not playing it. And I really like that idea. Thank you for thinking about that or throwing that up, bringing that up.
It is my pleasure. And that is really what happens, right? We are both the player of the instrument as well as the instrument. Yeah. And we forget that we are the instrument. We only remember the playing of it. Like, yeah, it's great. You need to have that skill, and we need to be good and proficient in understanding how to play the instrument. And we also need to take care of the instrument. And we are the instrument. So we have both of these, again, the observer and the observed, right? We are both at the same time.
And to take care of both at the same time is important. And you were talking about executives, and I would imagine this is similar for you and the executives you work with. One of the things when I start working with executives and realize when we look at their calendar, they have meetings all day back to back generally, or appointments or lunches, whatever, right? Back to back. Then maybe about between 4 and 6 p.m. is when it's like, okay, now I'm going to start working, right? Now it's like, okay, they've got the meetings during the day, and then after or whenever they do the work. And I, in some ways, what I always say to my clients is that will work for a season. That cannot be the way that you work. That cannot, and it goes back to, like you said, being the example. How do you work with your executives to work through something that is like that, to let them know that you can do this for a while, but A, you don't want to role model it, and B, you're not going to be able to keep that pace forever. That's not healthy. That's not the best way. And I know that might not be the best words to use, but in thinking of that, how do you deal with that, and have you experienced that?
Well, for me, I constantly remind people of the sustainability of whatever system it is that they're putting up, right? And understanding, am I intending this to be a sprint, or am I intending this to be a marathon or a triathlon? Or what is that? What is it that I'm trying to build, right? Because I don't want to build something for a sprint and then go, oh, no, but we're going to use the same pace and the same everything, and then just stretch it out for the next 50 years. Please don't do that. That you will not make it. You will definitely go into burnout. Bad idea.
Yeah.
And to your point about the back-to-back meetings, I know it is one of those things that most people, they want to cram as much as they can into the time that they have, right? So it is a finite resource, and we only have 24 hours in one day. And the more I can put in there, the better. And I also want you to remember that we, as with machines, as with everything else, cannot sustain that pace. So what will happen is you might be able to, as you mentioned, do it for a season, right? Short period. And then you might need to recover in order to do that again. And your recovery period might be even longer than the time that you have pushed to do this. So a better approach might be to look into how can I actually build some of that recovery period into this thing that I'm building here. So having my meetings and being intentional to, if I schedule an hour meeting and my calendar says that I have 7 to 8 and 8 to 9 and 9 to 10 and 10 to 11, so on and so forth, I also want to make sure that all the meetings that I go to, I end at least 5 or 10 minutes early.
Yes.
So that I have a time where I can take a break. Your brain needs it. Your body needs it. Physiology needs us to be able to take a break. You are not a machine. Do not treat yourself as a machine, because you will break down. And unfortunately, the spare parts from China is not available as yet.
It's so true. I have a client who loves Formula One racing. And so I asked him, I was like, how many laps does an engine, does an engine run infinitely in an F1 car? Which we could say, no, even, so if the most elite, I think that is so important to think about. And I really liked how you talked about, again, going back to labeling, but labeling, is this a sprint? Is this a marathon? Is this a triathlon? To get people to think about it. I will say, when I think about the intersection between mindfulness and productivity, what I have found is, while I am definitely learning about mindfulness, and I've got, meditation studies or Buddhist studies, whatever classes I'm taking and learning, one of the things that I've learned when it comes with clients, I can't necessarily go the next day and say, hey, I learned this in Buddhism. Do you know what the Buddha says about suffering? I think that there's something about productivity that's suffering. That might not be the best conversation approach that I can take with everybody, but I can glean from that and say, oh, right. So we've been talking about suffering in Buddhism, and we know that there are some comparisons, and how can we look at it and make recommendations, like you said, like end the meeting 5 minutes early, make sure that you've got some of those times. So for me, as we're talking about not just productivity and working with people, but we're talking about mindfulness, I think there's many different ways we can bring it in. Again, what we learn and what we can verbalize. What have you learned, or how do you see kind of, again, mindfulness, your mindset and your clients? How do you bring that in, and how are you able to connect the two, rather it be more, formally, or kind of more on the side, if you will?
I think for me, I know most coaches love learning. So personally, I'm a fan. If you were to pay me to learn all day, I'll be good with that. I'll be so happy.
Good thing.
And so my main reason why I love learning so much is because I get to see all these different things that I can overlay with one another, or the one thing helps me to make more sense of something else somewhere. I had a client, to give you an example of this, I had a client not so long ago going through an organizational change and a lot of uncertainty and overwhelm with the new way of doing things. And there's burnout in that whole space. Not only my client, the whole space is sort of in a place where it's not great. And one of the things that we had a discussion around was the fact that we expect ourselves to just jump back into it. We expect ourselves to be ready for the next thing immediately. Now, I don't know about you, but nothing on this planet can do that, not even a machine. So if you think about a vehicle, right? And you are driving at 100 Ks, and now you need to stop. Does it do that immediately? No. It takes a wee bit, right, for it to stop. And then if you want to go from 0 to 100, does it do that immediately? Also no. Yes, we have a whole bunch of vehicles that can do it really fast, but it's not instantaneous.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing, not even our wonderful PCs and all the things that they do in tech, is instantaneous. There's milliseconds or microseconds for something to take place. So that state change, and depending on how big the state change is, that state change needs some time to actually go into its new state. So why are we, as human beings, expecting ourselves to do it like this? It is not realistic.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is something that we definitely need to kill it.
Definitely.
And change that expectation. It's
Mm-hmm.
not possible. And the bigger the changes that we need to go through, the more the swing is if we're going to push it. So we need to expect that turbulence if that is what we're going to do. If we're going to push it and not take it easy and do small incremental changes, we're going to have big swings.
Mm-hmm.
And that might come out as emotional swings, that might come out as not being mindful because I don't feel like I can be mindful, right? My mindfulness practices is actually helping me to decrease the amplitude and get myself into a steady state where I can be more fully and productively human.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's some of the ways that I might do it.
I love that. I love that. And I love it because what it realizes and acknowledges is when we're talking about the intersection between mindfulness and productivity, and when we're working with people as coaches, as executive recruit, whenever we're working with them, it is interesting to me that it then becomes our perspective, because again, going into a conversation when especially if we're talking about with an executive, maybe they're like, okay, we've got a new project, our KPIs are off, at that point, sitting down and saying, now we're going to talk about mindfulness and productivity. That's not going to, that won't work. But the good thing is we are like the lifeguard, where we're able to see. And like you said, we can bring in some of those things where we can say things like, you have been running on this project for 3 months at 180 miles an hour. You need to let it decrease, and you can't just jump into another one. So for me, in some ways, the way we intersect productivity and mindfulness is by being there and by being the coach and that set of eyes. Would you kind of agree with that's a good way to summarize a way that we can intersect mindfulness and productivity?
Yes, I think we do need to have that extra sounding board, that extra reminder, right? It might be that it is somebody that you trust on your team to do that.
Mm-hmm.
It might be that you have a coach to do that. It might be that you have a wisdom circle or a group which you belong to that helps you to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And we all need it. We all need it because we can be so ostrich-like with our heads in the sand and not seeing anything else that's going on around us. Yeah. And then think that we can just jump from the one thing to the next. So, yes, good reminders. Even these shows, watch more of them.
Absolutely. I would say, and I think in a way, one of the things I hope as we've been talking that people are realizing that, yes, this can happen in a formal coaching or executive coaching, this can happen in those kind of relationships, but also more, it can happen with what is our support system? Who is your team of angels? Who is your wisdom team? Who are those people that are supporting you? Are they like-minded? Are they people who also are going to see? I had a friend yesterday say to me, Megan, things have been a little stressful lately. Like, have you taken some time, or do you have a plan to take time for yourself? I will say I appreciated that so much because she didn't judge. She didn't tell me what I should do. And she brought it up in a way where I was like, oh yeah, I probably do need to take some downtime. You know what I'm saying? Like, so to be aware of that and support and encourage each other is important.
Yeah, it is very important. Having people that would help us to see what we need to see when we need to see it, and not just placate or go for status quo. It is so, so important. I mean, we do need to be challenged. Don't get me wrong. Challenges are good. And we want to make sure that the challenges doesn't put us into a space where we break. So having that balance.
Definitely. And having trusted people who know how to approach you. And I don't mean that in don't use that tone, don't use that word, but there are sometimes we are in a place where we can't receive it that way. We are in a place where for me to receive it, I need someone to understand the best way to send that supportive message also.
Yes. See, and that's where we need to know how to be the violin so that we can play it in a way that makes sense for the other person.
I mean, Mariska, my mind has been blown with that one, and I cannot wait to take that one and think about it, because we are that, well, we're not just playing the music, we are the instrument, and we need to be prepared and we need to shine. And we begin to sound better as we age and as we mature. It doesn't have to be days and, but just that whole process of maturing in life, right?
Absolutely. It is. And that's part of life, and that's part of the joy of living. Guess what? We learn all the time.
We did. Mariska, I want to thank you for letting me spend time with you today. I mean, let me word that. I want to thank you that we were able to spend this time today, and that we were able to talk a little bit about productivity. We're able to talk about mindfulness. We're able to talk about people. Is there one takeaway or one thing you would like for people to think about as we're going away and going into a Friday and Saturday and weekend, and one thing that you want people to think about for their mindfulness and their productivity?
I think for me, when you look at your productivity schedule and thinking about what you want to change about it, or how you want to optimize it, how you want to make it work better for you. Also bring in the lens of how can I do this mindfully, right? Not only the restructuring it mindfully, but also the when I am in this space, how does that encourage me to be more mindful in every moment of my day, so that when I am in a meeting, I can be fully present. I am not thinking about the next 5 things that I have to do. And when I am not in the meeting, I can be fully present with whatever that is. Mm-hmm. So building in those slots, those capabilities for ourselves, that I would say would be my juicy little intersection between productivity and mindfulness.
I really, really like that. And there are times when I will tell you that I'm going through and doing things, and I'll just stop and I'll be like, I don't like how I'm feeling right now. And that's when I realize, I need to make a change, don't I? And so for me, it is about that and about acknowledging and understanding it. I want to thank you for being with me today. I want to thank you for letting me join you and have this conversation and get to know each other a little bit more. I want to thank you for your time today, Mariska.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it.
I want to thank you all. Mariska will be back next week, and there will be a fresh new topic. And so please don't forget to join. We are going to say goodbye to Mariska for now. We will see you again next week. I want to thank you for joining us on A Women's Prerogative. Today we talked about the intersection of mindfulness and productivity. We are on USA Global Radio TV, and we will be back. Please don't forget to check out our website. Please don't forget to check out other programs that are available so you can be your best self and shine. Now, a word from our sponsors.
Get ready to wear the brand that's changing the world of media. Introducing the official USA Global TV and Radio online store. From our TV show hosts to our incredible global guests, you asked, we delivered. Rep your appearance with pride. Whether you've been on air, hosted a show, or tuned in, we have something just for you. Visit us at usaglobaltvradioshop.myspreadshop.com and start shopping today. Check back frequently. We're dropping fresh new designs all the time. Showcase your role in our global community. These designs celebrate your voice, your story, your presence. It's more than just merchandise. It's a movement of hope, inspiration, education, and elevated listening. Head to usaglobaltvradiosshop.myspreadshop.com. Your spotlight awaits. USA Global TV and Radio. Elevate your style. Elevate the world.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USA-Global-TV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Music by Johnny Dyes. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative Direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Copyright 2025. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.